The elevator to the 50th floor of the Hudson Spire in downtown Manhattan didn't hum. It whispered. It was a sound of money, of frictionless ascent, carrying Julian Thorne to his throne. Julian was a man made of sharp angles and expensive fabric. At 52, he was the CEO of Thorne Logistics, a company that moved half the freight in the United States. He was efficient, he was brilliant, and he was famously, unapologetically cold. Every morning at 6:45 a.m., the glass doors would slide open. Julian would step onto the plush gray carpet, walk past the weeping fig trees, and enter his office. And there, sitting on the corner of his mahogany desk, would be his coffee. It wasn't just coffee. It was a double-shot espresso from a boutique roaster 3 blocks away. Specifically the Rwandan blend, hot, precise. Waiting, he never asked for it. He never said thank you, he assumed. In the way that kings assume the sun will rise. That it was simply part of the corporate machinery. Maya stood 3 feet away, holding an iPad against her chest like a shield. Maya was 24. She wore cardigans that had been washed too many times. She was the junior executive assistant, a title that meant she did everything the senior assistant didn't want to do. "Good morning, Mr. Thorne," she whispered. Her voice was barely audible. "The Tokyo numbers," Julian said, not looking at her. He picked up the cup. He took a sip. "Perfect. Are they on my desk? Sent to your inbox at 4 a.m., sir." "Good." Maya watched him drink. It wasn't fear in her eyes. It was a heavy, sorrowful sort of patience, like someone waiting for a clock to strike an hour that might never come. The crack in the routine happened on a Tuesday. It was raining, a cold, biting New York November rain. Julian had arrived early, bypassing the gym because of a pulled muscle. He walked into the lobby of his building at 6:15 a.m. The coffee shop in the lobby was crowded. Julian decided to wait. He stood behind a pillar invisible to the masses. That's when he saw her. Maya was at the counter. She looked exhausted. Her hair was wet from the rain. She was digging through a worn-out leather purse. Julian watched, mildly irritated. Why is she down here? She should be upstairs. He watched as she pulled out a debit card. It was chipped, the plastic peeling at the corners. "That's $8.50, Maya," the barista said. "Price went up again." Maya winced. She looked at the card reader. She hesitated. Julian narrowed his eyes. Use the corporate card, he thought. That's what it's for. But Maya didn't pull out the sleek black American Express. She swiped her own beat-up debit card. The machine beeped, declined. Julian stepped slightly closer. "Try it again," Maya whispered, her face flushing red. "Please, it should work. I didn't eat lunch yesterday." "Maya, look, I can just give you a drip coffee for free," the barista offered. "No," she said firmly. Her voice shook, but her spine straightened. "He drinks the Rwandan double shot. He needs it. It helps him think." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a handful of quarters and dimes. She counted them out on the counter, one by one. "There," she said. "That covers it." She took his cup, and cradled it like a precious jewel. She turned and ran toward the elevators. Julian stood frozen in the lobby. The realization hit him like a physical blow. She wasn't expensing it. For 3 years. This girl had been spending nearly $9 a day on his coffee, out of her own pocket. Why, by the time Julian reached his office, the coffee was on his desk. Steam curled from the lid. Maya was seated at her station, typing furiously. Julian didn't sit down. He paced. Paranoia, his oldest friend, whispered to him. "She's hiding something." He pressed the intercom. "Maya, my office now." The door opened instantly. Maya walked in. "Sir, close the door." She did. "I was downstairs this morning," Julian said. "I saw you." Maya's face went pale. I'm sorry I was late, sir." "I saw you pay for my coffee," Julian interrupted. "With change, with quarters, Maya." She looked down at her shoes. I just wanted to make sure you had it." "Why?" he demanded. "Do you not have a corporate card?" "I do, sir." "Then why are you spending your own salary? Why are you starving yourself to buy a billionaire an espresso?" Maya stayed silent. She was trembling. "Is it a crush?" Julian asked, his voice harsh. "No," Maya looked up, eyes wide. "No, Mr. Thorne, it's not that." "Then what is it?" Maya took a deep breath. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. It was yellowed with age. "Because of the Bluebird," she whispered. Julian frowned. The name triggered a faint scratching in the back of his mind, a dusty memory. "The what?" "The Bluebird Diner," Maya said. "In Brooklyn, on 4th Street. Do you remember it?" Julian stood still. 4th Street, 30 years ago. He remembered the smell of grease. He remembered the cold. He remembered being 22, fired from a warehouse job, sleeping in a subway station. "I remember," he said slowly. "I used to eat there when I had money." "And when you didn't," Maya corrected him. She stepped forward. "You need to come with me, Mr. Thorne, please. If you want to know why I pay for the coffee, you have to see where the money comes from." The drive to Brooklyn was silent. They pulled up to a block that gentrification had forgotten. And there was a boarded-up building. The sign was faded, the Bluebird Diner. Julian stepped out of the car. The wind here smelled different. It smelled like the past. It's been closed for 5 years, Maya said. Julian walked to the window. He peered through a gap in the plywood. He saw himself in the corner booth, shivering, hungry. He remembered the waitress, older, tired eyes, a smile that could warm up soup. "Top you off, hon," she would say. He would shake his head. "I can't pay, Sarah." "I didn't ask if you could pay," she'd reply, and she would pour. Julian felt a tightness in his chest. Sarah, that was her name. "She fed me," Julian whispered, "when I was nobody." "She believed in you," Maya said. Her voice broke. "She used to come home and tell me about the young man in the corner booth. She said, 'Maya, that boy is going to rule the world one day. He just needs a little fuel to get the engine started.'" Julian turned to look at Maya, really look at her. "You," Julian breathed. "You're Sarah's daughter." Maya nodded, tears spilled over. "I was 6. I used to do my homework behind the counter." Julian staggered back a step. "I promised her," Julian said, his voice trembling. "The last day I saw her, I told her I'd come back. I told her I'd turn this place into a palace. I told her she'd never have to work again." "I know," Maya said. She waited. The silence stretched, heavy, suffocating. "She waited for 10 years, Mr. Thorne, even when the neighborhood got bad. She kept your favorite booth open." She said, "Julian is a man of his word." Julian felt the bile rise in his throat. He hadn't forgotten Sarah on purpose. He had just ascended. "She died 5 years ago," Maya said. "Of a heart attack. She was working a double shift because we couldn't make rent." Julian fell to his knees, the damp pavement soaked into his tailored pants. "Why?" Julian choked out. "If she died, if I failed her, why do you buy me coffee? Why do you work for me?" Maya reached into her bag. She pulled out a small, leather-bound journal. "Because of this." Maya opened the journal. The pages were filled with handwriting. "Mom kept a ledger," Maya said. "Not of debts, but of investments she made in people." She handed the book to Julian. He looked at the page dated October 12, 1994. Julian, coffee and cherry pie, $4.50. Note, he looked sad today, told him he was smart, saw him smile, page after page, hundreds of entries. "When she got sick," Maya said, "I was angry, I hated you. I saw you on the cover of Forbes magazine." "You should have hated me," Julian wept. "I wanted to," Maya admitted. "But Mom made me promise. She said, 'Maya, hate is poison. Julian isn't bad, he's just lost. He forgot where he came from. Give him what I gave him. Give him kindness, because even rich men can starve.'" Maya pointed to the coffee cup Julian was still holding. "I got the job 3 years ago. I saw you. You looked exactly like the boy in the booth. Cold, lonely, so I started buying the coffee every day. I buy it so that every morning you taste something that was given with love, not because of a contract." Julian looked at the journal. He realized then that all his billions were worthless. He was bankrupt of honor. "I didn't know," Julian whispered. "You didn't look," Maya said softly, "but you're looking now." Julian stood up, the ice around his heart shattered. "I can't fix the past," Julian said. "I can't bring her back." "No," Maya said, "you can't. But I can balance the ledger." Julian Thorne didn't go back to the office that day. He walked into the pawn shop next door. He bought a hammer. He bought a crowbar. He walked back to the Bluebird Diner and ripped the plywood off the door with his own hands. He spent the next week there, in his shirt sleeves, sweeping out 30 years of dust. 6 months later, the street was blocked off. The neon sign buzzed to life, the Sarah Foundation and Community Kitchen. Julian stood on a makeshift stage. He wasn't wearing a suit. He was wearing an apron. "My name is Julian," he told the crowd, "and I am a man who owes a debt I can never repay." He told them the story. "This place," Julian said, "will never charge for a meal. If you are hungry, you eat. If you are cold, you sit." He stepped down and walked over to Maya. Maya wasn't his assistant anymore. She was the director. "Ready for the lunch rush?" Julian asked her. Maya smiled. It was Sarah's smile. "Ready, but first." She reached behind the counter and poured a cup of coffee. She slid it across to him. Julian reached for his wallet. Maya put her hand over his. "No," she said. "This one is on the house." Julian paused. He looked at the cup. "No," Julian said gently. "I think it's time I started paying my own tab." He took out a crisp $20 bill and put it in the tip jar. Julian took a sip. It wasn't the Rwandan double shot. It was simple drip coffee. But as the warmth spread through his chest, Julian knew it was the best cup of coffee he had ever tasted. Because for the first time in 30 years, he wasn't drinking it alone. The world breaks everyone, and afterward, many are strong at the broken places. Thanks for watching. If this story reminded you of the power of kindness, please subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life stories.